Hello, everyone, and thank you so much for joining me. Today is a momentous occasion. I am launching the Grace and Salt Leadership Academy, the Esther Project today. So today is March 20th, 2024. If you're watching this today, welcome, and thank you so much for supporting and for being interested in the Esther Project. If you're watching this in the future, just know that today, March 20th, 2024, we started this whole thing. And so I'm so excited, but I wanted to record a quick message to explain why Esther. Like, why is it called the Esther Project? And it's called the Esther Project because Esther, the queen of Persia, I love Esther and I love her story. And she's been very instrumental or inspirational to me personally through my career journey, um, and through raising my daughter and my son. um, that I want to share, Esther. And so I wanted to name this very important um, program. I wanted to name after Esther because it's inspired by her. So here's her story. So Esther was the queen of Persia. They say, research says that she was about 14 when she became the queen, and she was Jewish. She was raised by Mordecai, her uncle, and Mordecai had told her, do not tell anyone that you are Jewish. And that was for her safety. Okay. So that was a big deal. So 430 BC, I think I said that. So what's really important about that is that Mordecai had heard that some of the king's guards were plotting against him and were going to kill him. So Mordecai tells Esther, Esther tells the king. In doing so, the king, Esther and Mordecai are entrusted to the king. Like they built trust through that situation. But what it also did was it caused the king to get a little nervous. I mean, can you imagine? You learn about a plot against the king that somebody wants to kill him, and then now all of a sudden you're watching your back and you're looking all over the place, right? So what he decides to do is he decides to promote one of the men in his court called Haman. So he promotes Haman to the highest position you could be and not be the king. So this person's second in command. It's the king's right hand. I would call Haman maybe the king's bodyguard, right? Because he needed something. He felt like he needed somebody to watch his back. So with that position, Haman, it was a requirement that everyone must bow to Haman because he was of that royal position. Well, Mordecai, Esther's uncle, says, I am not bowing to you. I am totally not bowing to you. Well, that really ticked Haman off. Can you imagine, right? You got this guy with this major ego and you're not going to bow to me? You Jew? You're a Jew. Why wouldn't you bow to me? So what he did was he plotted, he developed this plot. He went to the king and he said, guess what, king? This is King Xerxes. He says, that there are people in your kingdom who don't honor their culture, the king's culture and traditions. And so those people should be punished. And one way to remove these people is to destroy them. So the king blindly accepts it, right? Where Haman knows that it's all the Jewish people that are not honoring the culture and traditions of King Xerxes. What the king does not know is that he just put his beloved queen, Esther, to death because she's Jewish. So Mordecai went to Esther and said, sweetheart, you've got to tell the king. You have to tell the king. And she's like, but Uncle Mordecai, if I tell the king and I go to him unsolicited and he does not raise his scepter to me, I'll be put to death. So what am I going to do? And so Mordecai says this, and I'm reading out of my book. I dedicated a chapter in my book, Grace and Salt, to Esther and her lesson, her leadership lesson. So here's what Mordecai says. He says, do not think that because you are in the king's house, you alone of all the Jews will escape. So in other words, like, don't think that just because you have the ear of the king and that you're in the private comfort of the castle that you are protected because you're a Jew. And the decree says, anyone who's not honoring the cultures and traditions, which are the Jewish people. And so you will be put to death too. He goes on to say, for if you remain silent at this time, relief and deliverance for the Jews will arise from another place. So if you don't do it, God is going to have somebody else do this, right? So why not you? He says, but you and your father's family will perish. So you may not do it. Somebody else is going to do it, but you're still going to be put to death. And then he says to me, the most important part, he says, and who knows, but that you have come to royal position for such a time as this. Okay. That's the essence of the Esther Project, because Esther, she stepped up, she spoke out, and she broke through. She went to the king. She uninvited. She asked for an audience with the king. The king raised his scepter. She told him what was going on and that it included her death. The king reversed everything and ended up putting Haman to death. So he was hanged. So her courage. Now imagine this. I mean, our situations are not life and death, really. But her dilemma was, do I speak up and risk being put to death, or do I just kind of see how it all goes and get put to death? Right? What do I do? Am I going to save all these people because I'm risking my life? I'm going to sacrifice my life to save everyone because I could have been put to death. Or am I going to just kind of hide in the corner? Right? So that's what the Esther Project is all about. And this is partly my story. I had I received a promotion and I went to a new position in the company, and I didn't fit. I didn't fit there at all. I worked with a great bunch of guys, but I was a gal and I didn't fit. So I was talking to my boss one day, and he said, "Melissa, maybe your purpose is to be right where you are, because you're supposed to bring a little elegance and a little class and a little grace to this organization. And so you are there on purpose." So he was my Mordecai. So his name was Phil, and he's pretty special. And so I took that advice to heart. And so that's what I did. I was authentic to me, and I stepped up, I spoke out, and I broke through. And that's what I want for you. And so at Grace and Salt Leadership Academy, through the Esther Project, we are helping women who maybe don't know their purpose, who maybe are tired of being in their job, who maybe don't fit, and who are tired of just pushing against that wall. We help them learn how to step up, speak out, and break through. And I'm so proud of you for being here today. Thank you so much for joining us and for joining the Esther Project.